Hey, I'm Joy Nkoyo, your host for this podcast. Join me as I delve into the minds of fellow artists and find out about their inspirations, creative process, and personal journeys. This is Noise in the Gallery, a podcast to inspire.
In September 2020, the war in Artsakh in Armenia broke out, and all my family lived there. Like growing up, when I was going through stuff, the thing that would take me out of my own head was listening to fun music. Mm-hmm. And like even with painting and stuff, like my most colourful paintings are the ones I've made in like my darkest times. Every single thing that I've been the most proud of, I've been petrified of putting it out, going after it, or thinking that I could even give it a shot. And I think that's always a sign. I want to be a great artist. I want to make amazing things. I love it. You do it because you appreciate it, because it gives you life, and you want to, but it can make your world so small, and it can make your life so insular and isolated from everything else that's going on. And then actually it kind of eats you up from the inside out. And like the darkest times in my life have been where I've been really insular. Is you being a good artist over being a good human being and serving, whether it's in your relationship, in your friendships, in your community. Mm-hmm. Like that to me is more important, and that's given me more life than anything else. And actually, from that perspective, it's made me less afraid, less closed. And art it's an expansive thing, isn't it?
We met at Goldsmith mixing and mastering course, and you were just a force even then. Really? I remember kind of sitting there being like, oh God, I'm so embarrassed to look stupid and like ask questions, and kind of there being many times where I didn't know what was going on, and you were just straight up like, what's going on? And I rated you so much for it, just being unafraid to just like, because it is a male dominated space. It was at the time. It was, a good few years ago. And I think, were we the only females there?
No, Cheyenne was there.
Cheyenne! Yes!
So sick.
Okay, so there were 3 of us, and then maybe like
so
10
sick.
guys. And I just rated you for it,
Oh, bless you. But I remember when I saw you, I think the first thing I said to you was I really liked your outfit. I just thought you were so beautiful, and you were so well dressed. And it was so interesting, actually, because when I all the things, when you're like, because you were classically trained and like all these things about you that were just so, I would have just never, you're just an interesting individual. And I love that about people, where you're like this beauty, you came in with like beautiful, you're looking beautiful and and then your music and I mean, I love your stuff, so, but it was so beautiful to get to know you and like learn about you, because it was just, I was really impressed. But I was. So I don't know what I was like in class, but I'm so glad I took it, because I think for me, I had all these kinds of insecurities about specifics in music production, like specific things that I felt like I couldn't get answers from. And I remember doing that course was like, I'm going to be investing in myself because I want to learn about this particular thing. So I think when I came to class, I wasn't holding back. I'm like, I'm here to
get my money's worth.
To get my money's worth. I need some answers. I really was looking for answers.
Yeah.
And I think actually that chilled me out a lot, because I think as well, when you're coming into the space, as a woman producing, it feels like you said, it's very male dominated, and it's not like, for me, I didn't grow up with producer mates and making music since I was at school, like on my laptop. I've never been that person, so I was always thrown into the deep end. And when I was living in LA and I was in these writing sessions and stuff, I was trying to learn as much as I could being in those environments. And then I remember I took like one music production course back then, but everything was self-learned. So that was the first time for me where I was like, I don't want to be doing this where I'm just trying to get information from my surroundings. Like, I've got 2 hours at the studio, I'm going to just see how he's doing that. What reverb is he using? Like, I remember specifically taking those 2 classes because I was like, I want to know this, I want to know that. And
so that was your first time being in like a formal...
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I took 2 music classes in LA. One was, and they were both, again, like, part-time kind of things, like 3 hours in the evening once a week. One was a songwriting class and one was a music production class. And outside of, because I was classically trained when I was at school, like piano and stuff, and I did grades, but that was it. So for me, like that world of, that was the class that we took was me basically trying to get to the bottom of some stuff. Yeah.
I mean, a lot has happened since then.
Yeah, I know.
It's been pretty turbulent years, and for you especially.
Bless you.
COVID's happened, and then you moved to Armenia.
Yeah.
Was it for a whole year?
Yeah.
Because you recently, last year, your EP came out, and that kind of culminated after you spent a whole year there.
Yeah.
And people might not know, I didn't know, with everything going on in the world, that there's a war there. There has been a war there for many years, and a genocide. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but I will say it. Can you? Why did you go? Was music always kind of there in your mind as a reason you were going there?
Oh, that's such a beautiful question. So prior to 2020, I was doing shows in London, and then I had an amazing band, and we were doing shows, and then we started writing songs together, and it started to get really quite serious. Like we'd basically had a whole set of like an hour's worth of music that was unreleased, and we were really locking in the live shows. So that was basically my focus at the time, like 100%. We're working on this music together that I've written with these boys, and we're really excited by it. And actually, it's kind of different to the stuff I've put out before. It's like quite funky and quite, it's a bit different. But yeah, that was the plan. And then in September 2020, the war in Artsakh in Armenia broke out, and all my family lived there. And apart from my mum and I who live here, every other of my relatives are there. And that was horrific. Like, it knocked me for six. Like, it was honestly the worst. I would say, given everything that's happened, probably at the worst period of my life, like 3-4 months where, like, the first week, like, my cousins were like, they've just started bombing us, and then a week I'm not hearing anything from them, and then like there's nothing on the news, and then I'd got in contact with the BBC world news team, whatever, to basically like inform them, like, look, you're going into a zone right now where they're carpet bombing civilians. And actually some of the BBC team were in the bunker with my uncle, because it was just insane, like, and nothing was being reported. And I was just then spent like months trying to get journalists to write and speak on what was happening. And then I was getting people sending me photos of all these like bombed streets, and like, do you recognize it? Because obviously I know Artsakh. In fact, like, since I was a kid, I've spent most summers in Armenia.
Okay.
And I lived obviously in Artsakh when I was a kid. So I know Artsakh better than I know anywhere else in Armenia, because that's where I'd spend like 3 months in. And it's been a contested region for 30 years, but that was just mental. And then, so my focus completely shifted. Like, I couldn't eat, I couldn't walk properly, I couldn't sleep, I was just messed up. And so, yeah, I couldn't do any music, like, that wasn't, on my mind. And then, like, towards the end of the year, I was raising money to send to people there. Like, my uncles were driving back and forth from the front line, and my grandma was, like, making bread downstairs in the bunker while they were bombing. And so, we were raising money to get, like, socks for the soldiers and food. And I remember I texted my uncle, and he was like, oh, I can't get to the MoneyGram, like, I'll have to go there tomorrow because they're bombing, like, the road to, like, MoneyGram. It was just mental. And yeah, it was mental. And so
did you spend any time there during this time, or were you all the way in London?
I was in London, so this is end of 2020. And then after that, like, I think I think it was also really difficult for my band, because they're both English, and they're both really sensitive, and they both feel things. Like, it's not that, but I think if you haven't gone through that experience, especially like ancestrally, given the fact that as an Armenian, like we had the genocide 100 years ago, like I felt that my blood was burning from the inside out. Like it was a very spiritual experience. And like to the point where when the war ended, my clock in my apartment stopped. Like it stopped. Yeah. And it actually stopped 2 days before, like, the Prime Minister announced that the war was over, but they had already given 2/3 of the land away. So, and the land that was left was the city that my family are from. So they were okay up until, like, most recently. But, and so my clock stopped, and then 2 days later he announced it, but apparently he'd already given it away 2 days before. My clock in my apartment stopped. Like, my window, I remember doing a really deep meditation one night and then opening the window, and then my windows wouldn't close, and like the cat, we had a cat in the flat that kept meowing. Like there was a really strong energy in the flat. So it was bigger than me. Like I could feel, it was just so much ancestral. I don't know how to explain it. I really don't. And even at one point I was like, I want to go to Armenia. I can't be here. I can't be here. So I think after that, I had to take some time to heal. And then we tried to rehearse again, and I just was not in the right place. I was, pretty traumatized, honestly. And then I was like, I want to go to Armenia. And my plan was just to go to Armenia for a few months in 21. So I left in September of 21. And I ended up being there for a year, and I came back at the end of 22, and that's when I decided to work on this EP of these songs that I had started writing and producing, and I was like, I want to finish them and get myself back into that flow. And then I came back at the end of 22, and then last year in September, war broke out again, and they took the rest of Artsakh. So my family all evacuated, and I went back again to Armenia at the end of last year for just a bit over a month. So yeah, it completely threw me. Yeah.
That's shocking.
Yeah, it's
oh,
so
wow,
intense.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, bless you. Yeah, no, and I always find like people, when I talk about it, it's so difficult because it's so heavy, and I think people struggle to know what to say because it's quite big. It's like, especially everything that's going on in the world right now, it's very difficult to verbalize. Experiencing it is one thing because it, you feel it. But from the outside, like I always,
you just get this dumbstruck.
yeah.
Wow.
Like, what?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
How did your mum cope with it? Did she come with you?
No. She really struggled because, that's where she was born. It's where she grew up. And she really, really struggled. So I think it was this really beautiful thing that I was kind of like the middleman, so that I was going like back and forth. So, my mum was there with me, helping me, supporting, but I think it would have just, completely fucked her up. I think she's such a she's the strongest woman I know, but I think it was right that she didn't go. I think it would have been held down the thing. It's really too difficult to see it, and even for me, like when I came back at the end of last year, again, like for a month I was struggling. The whole time when they were evacuating into last year, again, it was like they're not eating, they're not sleeping, they're not whatever, but it was, so I can't even imagine
what it would have been like for
my mum.
Identity wise, do you feel like you're both
yes.
British and whereas does your mum feel like she's Armenian?
Yes, but I also think, interestingly enough, my mum has got a lot more, like, it's going to sound weird to say, but like more British qualities in terms of she's really smart, but like she can think very logically about things. I'm really emotional. So I think I'm more like my family where everyone's like screaming and they've got their emotions on the, 1 minute they're happy, 1 minute they're sad. My mum is very like measured, and she's quite stoic, like how she moves through the world. So I think that's why I think she, and the reason we moved to the UK is actually because she came here as a student. So she was studying here, and then we ended up staying here. So I think for her, she's got these qualities that I think work. Like she's not, but of course she's very very Armenian, whereas for me, I was raised here, you know.
From what age do you remember?
From like 7.
Okay, so we still had a sizable amount of childhood there.
Yeah, well, we moved around a lot actually. So I was born in Latvia, and then we moved to Artsakh when I was 2 for 2 years, and then we moved all around before we came to England when I was about 6 or 7. Yeah. So, so I think for me, I'm like, I went to school here, but the last few years was me going, oh my God, like being Armenian, or I don't know, it's so much bigger than me in the sense that every single one of my family members has grown up in Armenia, and I haven't. Mm-hmm. So I think my mum doesn't go like, oh, I'm Armenian. She just is, you know. I grew up like that, you know. So it's not like, whereas for me, I didn't grow up with Armenians around me. I would only go to Artsakh every summer, every year, like to be with family and stuff. Like I didn't grow up in an Armenian community. So I've always sort of leaned towards like, oh, I'm like British and like I'm happy to be Armenian. But the last few years was an identity like transformation.
Yeah, that's a lot. So like, how linked do you feel that this EP became to what happened, and your sense of duty to kind of like talk about it and raise awareness? Because it's not overtly political. It's not, there's a lot of love themes in there. Like there's so many other themes going on, but then just by its existence and everything you went through, like it must have some ties there.
Yeah, so I started those songs in London, and then when I came to Armenia, I felt like, man, you know,
did they feel trivial in some way?
Yeah, they felt it kind of, everything kind of didn't matter, really, like nothing mattered. I felt really disconnected from everything and everyone around me. I was also like, where's my life going? Because I'd been working on this project with the boys, like, you know, we'd all this stuff lined up. Now I can barely, you know, I can barely like, not barely walk in a straight line, but you know what I mean? It was just, but like everything just felt. And so then when I came to Armenia, I was like, okay, at least I can finish this thing that I've said I wanted to do at some point, and I'm going to do it. And the reason I think they're not overly political, and there were songs that I did write about that whole time, is I think, like growing up when I was going through stuff, the thing that would take me out of my own head was listening to fun music. Mm-hmm. You know, a little bit of Luther Vandross, a little bit, you know, like never too much, never too much.
That song,
know, parents are fighting, never too much, never too much, never too much. And it's like, you know what I mean? It's like that takes me out of it. And actually, and like even with painting and stuff, like my most colourful paintings are the ones I've made in like my darkest times. So I think for me, I was like, right, I have this space. I'm in Yerevan. And I just started focusing on, I mean, there were months where I didn't really see a lot of people. I was meditating, I was fasting, I was really taking care of myself, and then going, what am I most afraid of? There's no one for me to blame. I can't be pissed off at like, you know, my bandmate for annoying me, like, oh, we didn't do this song like that. I've only got myself. Like, what are my fears? And one of them kept coming up was that you need to finish this shit. Like, you started these songs, finish it. Yeah. And I gave myself that time as a producer to do that, which I think there's this really beautiful, I don't know where I heard it from, but this guy talking about when you say that you're working really hard at something, actually the work is doing its work on you. So when you are working hard on something, it's breaking down everything for you to transform into the thing or the person that can actually do it. And so Benevolent Prince was the track that I'm most proud of. Wicked girls in the middle of worlds, you can't stay away, so now I've got to go. Had to pray in the middle. And I was actually going back and forth with another one of my mates who was producing it with me, who was in London. And you know, back in London, it was just like the synth and the drum, and that was it, some bass. But then in Armenia, I was like, okay, let's get into it. And that track had about 10 different versions before it ended up being the one on the record. And I'm really proud of it, because as a producer, I was like, oh my gosh, I've done something that doesn't matter how people consume it. I don't care about that. That was such a personal thing Triumph. For me. Yes. Yeah. Yes. And so one of the lyrics is like, to the depths of hell we go, like... the depths of hell I go. And that was literally where, at a point in a few months prior, where I really felt like in some of my meditations and being in Armenia and like I was really in some, I had to really look at some shit. And so some of those lyrics that come out are like maybe inspired by that time, but really it was like the sound and the delving into how am I going to make this.
It's very visceral.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, the whole sound world, it's got a harshness to it, a brashness, but as you touched on, the humour and the lightheartedness as well, or it's more like a twisted kind of dark humour. You know, listening to Wicked and Wise, it's infectious, and I was grinning like an idiot, but also I was a little bit like, it has your back up against the wall. Wow. It's very, like, confrontational. Oh, wow. Everybody's wicked inside. Love to run, so I'll see you on the other side. See you on the other side. Its identity is very unique as well sonically. I think you said that you collected some sounds in Armenia.
Yes.
So what kind of sounds were you collecting? Because it's just so interesting to sort of understand sonically how it came to be and how you created this world, basically.
So I think, so Wicked and Wise, that's mad. Those vocals I recorded in my grandmother's house in Artsakh. And when I went to Artsakh when I was in Armenia, so I was in Yerevan, the capital, and Artsakh is about an 8-hour drive away. And given the war in 2020, you basically have to go through like 6 military checkpoints. So I was going through 6 military checkpoints to get to my family, and which was wild.
That's crazy.
Yeah, mad. And then in summer of 22, I was working on Wicked and Wise, recording the vocals, and then I was there for like a bit over a month, and then we were at my uncle's garden. We went to like my uncle's, there's like a bit of land, and he, you know, we were doing barbecue and stuff, and we were there and we started to hear bombing. So they were bombing while I was there, and I remember coming back to my grandmother's and we were like, right, we need to like get into the bunker, and I was supposed to be leaving back to Yerevan in a few days, and they actually bombed the road for me to get out. So the whole thing, and I think that kind of confrontational energy that you feel, it sounds really, thinking back to it, I don't think it was an intentional like, right, I'm going to do it like this. But going into Artsakh at that time, going through the checkpoints, and then you're in a bubble, like you're surrounded by military. There's about 120,000 at the time people in this tiny spot. And it feels like you're completely disconnected away from the rest of the world, because you kind of are. You have to go through, and
no one's reporting on it.
No one's reporting on it. No one's talking. And so you feel like you're in a bubble. And I feel like the way that the vocals are done kind of feel like that, like you're banging like on a window from the outside, like wicked and wet, like da, 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 da. You know, it's kind of like this, like let me out. Like there's some kind of energy there, which was never something I consciously thought of, I'm going to sing it like this, but it comes out like that. And when I listened to it, I was like, it really works. And then the ironic part of the whole thing is I dropped the EP around the same time that the evacuation happened last year. So the EP came out like a year after I'd like pretty much finished it, or had been working on it. And the maddest thing is the lyric Wicked and Wise goes like, I'll see you on the other side. So I recorded those lyrics inside of Artsakh, but I released it outside, and now everyone's left. So I'm literally listening to it on the other side, which is wild. Like,
wow.
Yeah.
I just got like shivers when
wild.
You said that.
Yeah, wild. Whether or not you like the song or not, at this point, I'm like, it's irrelevant. But in terms of sounds, like Benevolent Prince, I was recording like the lightning that was happening in Yerevan, like some of the storms, the weather sound, a lot of, like in some of the snares, we had like wood cracking with the snares, like
that's so cool. Yeah,
things like that, and like double. And so we started that in London. I found some like wood snapping snares and things. But a lot of then when I was in Armenia, I was recording a lot of the outside sounds and my surrounding sounds, and using that as palettes for like the rhythm and for some of the background. And at the end of Benevolent Prince, you hear like the rain and the thunder, and that's all in Armenia. So that was the.
That's gorgeous. Yeah, no, that's so really sweet. Gorgeous. Yeah. You mentioned, you're a visual artist in your own right, and I wondered, with your album covers, your EP covers, do you do those as well?
Yeah.
So what kind of mediums do you use? Because I know you paint. Mm-hmm. What else do you do? What don't you do?
No. I don't. You're such an incredible visual artist. You're such an incredible... I mean, I know you were laughing. No, it's not funny.
I mean, I'm finding it quite funny.
No, it's not, because when I said it, I really love it, and you were laughing, but I love it. Like, the painting behind you is so beautiful.
Thank you. Basically, Rip's looking at my lockdown crisis paintings. That's really what they were, no exaggeration. But look, if they've got your seal of approval, then maybe I'm too harsh on myself.
No,
but
they're so sick.
But yeah, you've done exhibitions.
Yeah.
I think you sell your paintings.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, but I haven't been making anything. Like, in the last 6 months, I haven't made anything. Mm-hmm. It's been like mainly prints that I've been selling, or but my medium is, it depends, like painting, oil pastel, charcoal, pencil,
whatever.
A piece of rock. What do you want? A piece of rock with some mud on the end of it. So yeah, I can basically whatever I can find.
Yeah.
And then the prints are cool. I really like some of the prints that I do. They're like, I do some like collage stuff on Photoshop and kind of take pictures and then kind of assemble.
Is that what your album, your EP, I keep calling it an album.
Yes, the EP cover is, so the drawing is collaged together, and then the background is painted, and then it's a scan of all these leaves that are like on top of it. So that's an example of that. So the guy I was producing the record with, his name's Luke, and he was saying, like, when we release these tracks, like, we should, you should have these characters for each individual artwork. And I wasn't sure. I think maybe because I'd been sitting on some of that artwork for a while. I'm like, I don't know. Like, I wasn't sure with this last EP. I was like, oh, maybe I could have gone a little bit more interesting with the visuals. Maybe I could have gone a little bit more out there. But I don't know. Like, I think it all works. I think it all fits. I think moving forwards, I want to explore a little bit more with, like more 3D, like doing some weird, like, I don't know, I want to just break out a little bit of the stuff that I've been making. Because with the songs that I've released in the past, I've always done like an artwork to go alongside with it. But I think like moving forwards, I want to maybe even like collaborate with other artists doing things like that. I just think that,
That's exciting to like try new things. Why not? And see what happens. Do you feel like you think about music in a visual sense, and how do those two mediums differ for you? Like, what kind of compels you to paint versus write a piece of music?
Gosh, I want to ask you that question.
I think I have a lot more baggage with music. Painting is something that I only started doing in lockdown. That was like the first time I thought, why not? Let's just do it. Yeah. So there's almost that explorative, childlike openness when I'm painting. When I'm making music, it's a lot more up here for me. I don't know if it's the same for you.
It's exactly the same.
But that's really interesting.
It's exactly the same for me. It's exactly the same for me. Because for music, like, when I was at school, music's always been the one. Like, it's always been the one that's chilled me out when I was a kid. It relieved a lot of my anxiety as well. Like, when I was going back and forth with my CD player.
Your Walkman?
Yeah, my Walkman, my CD player. Sometimes I'd have to like hold my CD player, like really like, fucking hell, I can't,
There's no way to do that and look cool, actually.
Yeah, there is no way to do that and look cool. Yeah, exactly. There was a guy that I fancied when I was a kid. He used to like do the, when they throw the newspaper at the...
he's like a paper boy.
A paper boy, right. So I used to go to school and I used to try and like play something really cool, like on my headphones, so that I could look really cool, and we'd walk past each other like I'm in my own movie, basically. It was so annoying because I was always trying to get my CD player out, like hey, like the track was like scratching. So every time like I'd see him, I was just in the most compromising of positions. Like I had like my satchel, and I was like.
All off centre.
All off centre. Headphone cuff coming out. a satchel shoelace half undone, like trying to get this moment, you know, and it just but so for me, like making music was always like this, anyone that's a musician is like a god, like that is like godly, is like god level, like, and I think so I was always really intimidated. I didn't even think I could ever do it as a career, or do it as a, not, you know, just do it. And I think so when I graduated university, and then I moved to LA, that was a whole other thing, but a month in, I was working for this music producer. I'd met this music producer, and then I went in for an interview with him to like get a potential internship. And 3 hours into the interview, he asked me like, "Are you an artist?" And I was like, what? Like, and the girl that introduced me to him, she was like, "Oh yeah, she makes music," because I had done some music at uni. I'd been in some, you know, I'd sung a bit, whatever. And I used to sing at school, and I was anyway. But it wasn't something that I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this, or yeah.
You felt like you could say, I am this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Never. And then he looked at me and was like, 10 tracks by next week. And I was like, what the fuck? And so the following week, I like got together some beats that I had done, and, you know, things I'd done, some covers. And pretty much after that, he was like, I don't know why you're not taking this seriously. And so then I worked with him and under him for like 6 months. He gave me my first guitar, he gave me and so I fell into the deep end. So I was in these situations in studios where I was just like, this is insane. And, you know, so for me, I had to take music off a pedestal and then work on it, and I worked at it. I was like, I do not want to waste these opportunities and getting into the rooms with these people and blah 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 blah. And then I took the songwriting course and the music production course, and I went deeper and deeper and deeper. And then I moved to London, and then just spent that time honing on my craft. But it was like, that was just, so that mental thing existed for me, but slightly differently. Because I'm like, for such a long time, I was like, I'm not good enough, or I don't want to sing in front of anybody, or I'm embarrassed, or and because it's such like, it's got to be done right. And then I think I'm past that point now. But painting is definitely more of a bodily thing. And the music is more of a head. And I think it's also maybe to do with the ears as well, like where it's positioned. And the painting is more with, I mean, unless you paint with your toes. But
I mean, even that's quite a bit.
Yeah. Even that, yeah, of course. It's not with your head. And I think as well with the painting too, when I first started putting out music, I was like, oh, I'll do my own artwork to like go with the music. And I've always loved drawing and painting or whatever. And then I started to get really into painting and visuals. And then there was a time years ago, I think it might have been a few months before we met, might have been, where I got really sick. I was in Armenia and I got really sick, and essentially, like, I was on a bunch of antibiotics and I couldn't really do anything, and my head was hurting all the time. And I was in the flat in Yerevan, and I just didn't want to listen to music. Like, I just wanted to be alone. I wanted to be in silence. Like, everything hurt. And that was when I really started to go deep with the paintings. And they were my most colourful stuff that I was just doing. And after the fact, 2 months later, I looked at all my paintings, and all of them had their ears cut off. Like, none of them had ears. None of the faces had ears. How weird is that?
Whoa.
So when you say it's a therapy thing, I think sometimes your work can tell you things about yourself that you're like, you didn't even realise.
Yeah.
I think it's hard too when, especially for somebody like you, you've trained and you've had so much education as well as, and I think when you go into something and you're like, I haven't had this
kind of, that's it. That's exactly it. It's an imposter syndrome, which you'd think I wouldn't have for music, which I still kind of do in some ways, but yeah, it's that standard that has been set. Okay, I've had this much education and I still feel a little bit like, am I meant to be here? Yeah. So then trying something new, how much more scary is that? How much more can I sort of use it as an excuse? Like, oh, I have no experience. And it's funny, teaching, being in education, people are always like, oh, I'm so afraid to learn the piano. I'm so afraid to like be bad at this. And I feel like a hypocrite every time I kind of say, oh no, it's great, like you've got to try new things, and I try and encourage them, but I know myself how hard it is, and I always do now say, look, there's so many things I'm afraid of trying. So you're actually doing the piano lesson, like, good for you.
Wow.
You know?
What would be the things that you're afraid of trying?
I think painting, like, you can see that I laugh at myself because I think it's hilarious, but maybe it doesn't have to be. I'd love to learn languages, and I think I'm quite good at getting to the point where I can understand a language, but speaking, the confidence to kind of stand up and speak to someone whose mother tongue it is, and not sort of go, oh God, like, you know, not be self-conscious, not doubt yourself. I think that takes a lot of courage. So,
Wow, that's so interesting. Because I always think that on the other side of fear is the thing that you're supposed to go towards. Like, the fact that you think that about your artwork, and that was, you know, and I go and I'm like, that's amazing. It's so interesting because that's not the right barometer to have. Like, obviously, you don't have a sense of what is good, what is, you know, you don't think this is... So, you know, but that's scary because I've had it where I'm like, well, then what do I trust? What do I trust? Do I trust myself? If I'm really scared about this thing, or if I don't think that it's good enough, and then sometimes every single thing that I've been the most proud of, I've been petrified of putting it out, going after it, or thinking that I could even give it a shot. And I think that's always a sign that there's something on the other, because it's almost like a form of worship. Like, it's like you love something, or you think that something is so great, you want to honor it in the right way. So how could I possibly honor it if I, you know...
You kind of want to protect it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. How do you find sort of navigating that public facing aspect of just letting something go, where it doesn't really belong to you anymore?
I'm struggling, dude. Because at this point now, that's the EP done and out. But there's so much more stuff that I've got, and I think now I feel myself in a different place. But I'm still working on it. I haven't got it, but I know that when I put out Benevolent Prince last year, that was the track that I'm so proud of it. I was so petrified the month before it was about to be released. I was like sick of fear, sick. And then I did it, and then I released the other one, and then it started to get less and less and less. So I think it's a practice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think probably that shall be my final answer. It's a practice. Yeah, that's my final answer. Yeah. It's a practice. It's like, I think it gets easier over time, but I haven't got it. I'm still in that process. But I know, like, if I'm like, oh, I can't be bothered to do this. Oh, I'm really tired. In my head, I'm like, are you though? Or are you procrastinating?
I think something I've been thinking about very recently, which is relevant and interesting that this has come up, is it's kind of like the stories that you tell yourself. So if I know that when I feel like I'm too afraid to speak up, but I'm the kind of person that does speak up anyway, so if I do it once, I might think, okay, I think I can overcome this. And if I do it enough times, then the narrative I'm going to have of myself is, okay, I'm the sort of person that will still do it. I'll still do the right thing. I'll still speak up, or I'll still send the message and say no, even if I still feel as wretched as when I didn't believe that about myself, because maybe every single time I let myself not do it, right, I would succumb to that. Now I kind of am building up that idea of myself that, okay, I know I can navigate this. And maybe eventually I won't feel as anxious about it. Maybe I won't. Maybe that's it. It's just the belief that you can kind of navigate and overcome. But I don't know if that makes sense to 100%.
You. I think about this, like, there's a story about Fela Kuti, who I love so much, and like he used to get really even till the end, like up until the end when he was doing shows, like there's like stories of him getting really like nervous, or he'd be really like specific about how things need to be done. And I think that as you grow, as you level up, the level of responsibility also heightens. Like, you do a show in front of 5 people. Okay, you're terrified, but you've done 5 people. Then it's 10, then it's 20, then it's 40, then it's 80. And there's a level of it that as you get better, you realize that you know less. That you actually don't know everything. And I don't think that ever ends if you're in that journey. So I think the thing is to hold yourself accountable at every moment and go, okay, am I doing this because I'm scared? Is fear controlling my decision? Or is it that, like, it's difficult, because sometimes I'm like, I really don't want to do this, I really don't want to go, and actually doing it has been the best thing I've ever done. But I think more in the sense that, like, if you're making something and you're afraid to put it out, let's say, for example, you've already made it, so why aren't you putting it out? You've already done the work. Why aren't you putting it out? Why aren't you sharing it with the world? How many times are you going to comp this fucking vocal? 100 more times, I'm going to comp it 100 more times. It's like, enough now. I think there's also this idea, for me, I found it, like, these tracks that I'm working on right now, I'm actually so sick of, when you're recording it, because obviously for you, when you record yourself singing, it's a mad process, because you're recording yourself and then you're listening to yourself and it's your own voice, but you've got to be objective about it. And then you're like, that wasn't quite right, my objective hat. And then you have to go back in again and be like, let me do it again. And you have to get back into it's like, and
try to appease your boss,
yes,
which is yourself.
Yes, exactly. Was that right? You fucked it up again. Oh my God. You have this mad, and like, I do this thing where I have literally 100 vocal takes, and I'm like, I'll just comp it tomorrow. I'll wake up in the morning, I'll have a copy and comp it. And I start going through these comps and I'm like, man, this is so long. Let me just do it again. And I'll do the same thing again. And it is unbelievable. And I did it so many times. At one point I was physically sick, like I was physically ill. And this time around with these tracks, I'm like, man, I don't want to do that. I'm sick of it. I've done it to the point that I'm so sick of doing that. I got to do it another way. And actually now I'm like, okay, fuck it. It's not 1,000%, oh my God, robotically, oh my God, amazing. But like, if I'm going to do this 500 more times and feel sick and not know what's left, what's right, up, down, I might as well just, and I think actually having gone through the process of doing it so many times, you're sick of yourself. I had to go through that. You almost have to kind of, it's like the initiation process.
Yeah.
And then you're like, do you know what? That's fine. That'll do. Like, you're like, it needs to be right, but actually leave it.
Yeah. That's so true.
Yeah, it's so true.
I'm so glad it's not just me though, because it's rough. And it's, do you know what it is? It's not the amount of work, it's the lack of judgment you feel at the end of it.
Exactly it.
And that's the scariest thing, when you're like, I can't even trust myself anymore. Like,
yes.
I don't know what's going on.
Yes.
I can't find my way around this project.
Yes.
And the amount of times I just want to start. I think I've actually done that, like started a new project and will drag across things, only the things I want, like, because I don't know where anything is.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the maddening thing.
Yes. And on the flip side of that, I've done so many vocal takes on one project. The project started lagging, and I have to change like the
latency.
And the latency, and it's like, you're like, man, this has got about 500 takes, 490 of them are my vocal takes, and 10 of them are the instrumental. And it's like, it forms its own entity. And like, I've done it where I'm like, man, I'm just gonna open up a new project and just do it again. Like, the best of it, because this is ridiculous. Like the lagging, it's real. There's this really beautiful speech that Ramdas, who I love, he talks about grief, and he's like, this sort of guru type. I mean, he's a legend. Anyway, somebody called in and was like talking about grief, and he talks about it where he's like, why are you giving yourself a time limit on grief? Let it play out as it should. And I sometimes think that with these processes, you want to just be like, I just want to do it in 3 takes and it be done. But actually, I think you need to walk through the fucking 500 vocal takes and be so sick of yourself that then
you're ready for that.
Yeah, you're ready for that.
Rather than kind of...
Yes.
I'm trying to do it in 3.
Because maybe the next 400 might be, because
yeah.
it's still going to be there. There's still going to be something there. So I think you need to play it out how it needs to be played out so you can let it go. And that's what it is, isn't it? Because music, even when I listen to myself sometimes, I'm like, I did a perfect vocal take, but I'm stressed listening to myself. Like,
yeah, because you can feel like the almost anxiety of it needs to be perfect.
Yes.
This take, yes. That's such an interesting balance. Try and get like that rawness in the moment, letting go and being okay with making mistakes. But then it's got to be 2 takes, 1 take. Yeah, man. Yes.
So I think that maybe that journey of like doing it yourself, really like, it may be longer and like feel more grueling, but in the end, I feel that I have such a deeper understanding of myself and my anxieties or my neuroses in a way that maybe I wouldn't have. And, if you work with what you have and you grow from that, I think that's the transformation that takes place. That's the, the other alternatives, I could go and get it recorded. And I mean, I do think that is a really beautiful thing, like recording in a space where somebody else is like engineering. I think that's incredible. And at this point in life, I'm so excited and open to that. But back a few years ago, I wanted to do it I needed to prove to myself that I can do it.
Have you been independent like the whole time, pretty much, as an artist? Yeah.
Yeah. The first, when I was in LA and I first put out Black Wine, that was, I had some management. God, that was absolutely
the LA chapter. How long was that? Was that a couple of years?
Yeah, 3 years or something. Mental. I was so depressed as well. I mean,
LA, I've never been, but it seems like a very different beast to London. Just, it's very spread out. You have to drive everywhere.
Yeah.
Everyone's like so polished and like, hey, and want something kind of thing. Not that London's perfect, of course, but different beast.
And I didn't want to go. I mean, the way I ended up there is a long story, but when I was in these different writing sessions and with different producers and stuff, I wanted to be in the producer chair. And funnily enough, like I was coming and recording the vocals, and the vocals came really easy because I wasn't engineering the session and I wasn't producing the session and I wasn't doing like a couple of takes or a few hours. And Dare, we wrote and recorded the whole track in 7 hours. I'll Understand was one of my favorite songs, and I did it with one of my friends, David, and we did that all in 1 take. Like, cool, fine. But that process to figure out who I was as an artist, mental. Doing it in that environment is mental. Like, we got 3 writers in the studio, you're going to be writing with me. And I'm like, I don't know who I don't even know what my fucking name is. Do you know what I mean? I don't even know.
You were young. And most people at that stage are young. They like young. Rounding up the 18, 19-year-olds. It's a tough environment to kind of cut through and find yourself in. You lasted 3 years.
Though, 3 years. I mean, that was mad. And then Black Wine, my friend David produced that. I had written it on the guitar with 2 chords because they were the only 2 chords I knew how to play. and then I wasn't going to put it out because I was like, I don't think it's that good. And then it kind of went semi-viral on SoundCloud, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, Black Wine, Black Wine," and I'm like, it's a really cool song, but is that who I am as an artist? And then I was thrown into this like whirlwind of like, and then I was having meetings with labels and managers. I was thrown into the machine. And I felt like it wasn't, I was like in a grinder. You know what I mean? Most people go blender, what smoothie, I was being like, I was like in a coffee grinder. I'm like, oh my God. It was mental, absolutely insane. I was so depressed. And actually by the end, I was like, most of the time, what was really cool about being in LA, after I'd done my course and stuff, I had a year work visa, so I had like a part-time job, and then I'd come home, sun was shining, I'd go get my coffee, I'd go to my room and I'd just be writing. And when I went back to London, I was like, I can just do that here without having to worry about my visa, without having to worry about this, that. I just was stressed and unhappy, and this isn't where I want to go. And so I think the pendulum swung the other way, and I was like, I'm going to do everything myself. Everything myself. The artwork, the production, and after a few years of that, I'm like, cool. I'm actually really happy now to work with other producers, other writers, other this, like writing with my band has been incredible. And like, we're going to be going into a studio and recording, and I'm so excited to have somebody engineer the session. Like, I'm excited, you know, but years back I wasn't, because I had no concept of who I was. I'm like, what are you engineering? What are you, there's no, I have zero substance. I'm like fucking Kinder Egg without the gift and
You're so funny.
With no gift inside. Nothing.
Disappointing.
Fucking hollow. What are you engineering?
But I think it's this idea that you can just inject it, you know, they all want to put their spin and their own ideas into the Kinder Egg. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's why I think it works very well for young artists who don't know who they are, but maybe are more easily convinced of who they are. You know? But
for you, like, have you been in situations, like, have you worked with different producers and writers that are like, Joy, I want to produce and write this record for you and I want you to sing it?
Yeah. And I was maybe 21, so still quite young, just out of the classical conservatoire, so like different worlds, didn't know who I was. Same thing, but I didn't get very far. I think I had 2 or 3 sessions with one producer, and I'd sort of peel back and go, well, this isn't me. But maybe I didn't have the courage to advocate for myself in these sessions. It would just be like a kind of, I don't know, what's the word, an avalanche. You just get swept up in it. And then by the end of the session, you're listening to your voice and this song coming out, and I'm like, what the fuck is this?
What the fuck is this?
Like, this is not my voice. This isn't my song. This isn't...
Yes.
I did have one person I sort of collaborated with, and he was a music producer, and I would make demos sort of on Logic. They were crap, and he would take them and we'd work together, and what do you want to try? What do you want to add? And that was great. That was really, really
beautiful.
lovely.
I love that. Yeah, because it's like, you know, it's like finding a friend. You know, it's like, here, I'm your friend. I'm your friend. And what do you like? I like basketball. Well, I don't play basketball. Okay.
Let's play basketball.
Let's play basketball then. Catch. I'm like, it just sometimes it doesn't, you know, fit. And music is such a, like, with my band and with the people that I've been writing with and playing with over the last few years, it's beautiful because we love each other and it's fun. It's a different energy. It's a completely different energy, and I love it.
Yeah.
And then I think also, if you've got a strong feeling of what you feel is right or what you like or what you don't like, even if you're clear about what you don't like, then being put in those situations where the producer's like, I'm going to produce, and then you hear it back and you're like auto-tuned to fuck, like, hello. Hello.
But it's like their interpretation of you.
Yes.
It's like Chinese whispers, you know, or that game where like you draw something and you pass it on, and then like by the end you're like, oh, is this how you like see me?
Yeah.
And I just found that so weird, and yeah, it kind of ties into the marketing aspect of music and how am I seen? How because this is what it is to me and how I see myself.
Yes.
But that's clearly not what you see. Because there's always going to be that slight gulf, don't you think?
Yes.
Unless you're amazing at marketing, and then maybe that's your thing. But
then... Yes, but it's a kind of like when somebody takes a picture of you, or you have a picture of yourself, you're like, this is what I look like. Somebody takes a picture of you and it's like pixelated. Like it's like 3 blocks of colours. Yeah. I can't see. You know, it's like, I always think about it in that way, because I've had it where I've, you know, the auto-tune thing really messes with me, because it's like, I can do this take again. No, it's fine with what we have. And then it's like auto-tune. This was years ago. I mean, I haven't worked with any producers literally in the last few years. It's just been me, myself, and I. And also, you know, with Luke, who I produced the CP with, who I play in a band with. But it's like, you know, I mean, I record something and it's fine, we got it. And I listen back and it's like, it's, you know, it's like fucking, it's like, you know what I mean? It's like ghosts. It's like, you know, 3 semitones down, auto-tuned to, like, that's not me. That's like, you know what I mean? That's somebody else.
Yeah.
And it makes you feel lonely as well, doesn't it? Have you felt that where you sit there and you go, I feel so scared?
Do you have things that you kind of wish that you knew starting out, or, you know, quite a few years ago? And that can be music, art, beautiful. That could be life.
Oh, it's such a beautiful question. So there's a few things. I think art is life. And I do think that. I think as humans, like, our life is this, if you look at it like a canvas, and we can be and we can paint and we can create whatever story that we want. And for a long time in my life, you know, I struggled with a lot of, like, I've struggled with depression, I've struggled with anxiety, I've struggled with it, you know, and a lot of those dark things have held me back from so much that, in a way, it's never as bad as you think it is. It's never, doing the thing is never as bad as, like, not doing it or not trying or putting yourself out there. And I think, you know, there was a period of time, especially when I was in LA, where I'm like, I'm just going to dedicate myself to the art. I'm an artist. And that is really beautiful, dedicating yourself to anything. But I also think it can be a self-indulgent thing. And over the last few years, I'm like, man, I just want to be a sick human being. Yeah. Like, that comes first above anything else. I don't care if I put out one song every 10 years. I really couldn't give a shit. I couldn't give a shit if I, you know, put out 500 albums, or I want to put out as much music. Obviously, I want to create and things, but it was such a focus of my life. I wanted to be this. I want to be a great artist. I want to make amazing things. I love it. You do it because you appreciate it, because it gives you life, and you want to, you know, but it can make your world so small, and it can make your life so insular and isolated from everything else that's going on. And then actually it kind of eats you up from the inside out. And like the darkest times in my life have been where I've been really insular and like, I'm a tortured soul, you know, but it's like, nobody understands. I'm so sensitive. And we are sensitive, and we do feel things deeply, and we're attuned to things that maybe people aren't. But at the same time, like, is you being a good artist over being a good human being and serving, whether it's in your relationship, in your friendships, in your community, like, that to me is more important. And that's given me more life than anything else. And actually, from that perspective, it's made me less afraid, less closed. And art it's an expansive thing, isn't it? So I think it's a life art thing. I think how you are in life is, like, your art says it speaks for itself, what you and sometimes the art is the thing that heals you, and sometimes you are the thing that heals the art. You are the person that, you know, actually you working on something and you're like, man, this is terrible. I'm in a terrible mind space. So let me go out and live a little. Let me go see a mate. Let me go for a hike. I'm going for a hike. I don't know the last time I went on a hike, to be honest. But let me go on a fucking hike, guys. I'm going on a hike. I'm going to you know, but then you come back to it, and then you're able to serve the work because you're better. You know, so I think it's That's beautiful. Oh, bless you. Yeah.
That is beautiful and just so refreshing to hear.
You're so sweet.
I think you've pinpointed a lot of things that I've been feeling recently, and thoughts I've been having, mind shifts I've been going through. It's a real thing of this sort of insular artist. I don't have a life.
Yes.
I don't need a life. Yes. I don't need friends. Yeah, being a good human. That's it. If you're in that fearful mindset, I mean, what are you creating anyway? You know?
Yes. Yeah, what are you making?
Yeah.
What are you making? And then it's like, what are you doing? Like, no, what are you making? You're making, what are you fucking doing?
Yeah.
And I've had that thought, so what are you doing? What are you doing? You're sat there, 600 vocals deep, depressed.
6 a.m.
6 a.m. You haven't seen anybody. You go on TikTok. You go back to your desk. Is that life? Is that life? You're like, it's life. It's discipline. I got to be disciplined. I got to sit here. I got to finish. Yes, there's an element of that. But then at what point does it become kind of like, earlier we were talking about like discernment. I think discernment is it's like fine-tuning the sword of discernment, isn't it? So you can discern when I can sit and really focus on something. If I have to sit there for 3 days, I'll sit there for 3 days. Or when do I have to separate myself away? Like, you have to discern whether, am I doing this out of fear, or am I doing this out of, am I scared because actually it's good for me, or am I scared because genuinely I shouldn't do it, It's the discerning. And then the more that you fine-tune that, I think that's you just fine-tuning yourself, your soul, your being. And how can you do that when you're just constantly thinking about the next thing I'm got to make this, I got to make this, I got to do this, what is life? What is that? What is that?
Yeah, because, you can make a machine of your own in a way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want that machine.
I'm
in this machine.
I'm in this machine. I've got to work this. And then, it's the other thing too, is like friendships and things too. Sometimes I think like, I've had it where I've had friends where I'm like, well, what is this friendship? And other friends that have transformed me and healed me and been, the greatest. And it's like, it's with anything. It's like, how real is it? And if it's real, it matters and it's important. And that's the vehicle of transformation, isn't it?
Yeah.
But if you have like a fake friendship, what are you doing? We're going to go sit and talk about what? You know what I mean?
Look at TikTok.
Yeah, look at TikTok. Look at TikTok. You scroll, I scroll. You scroll, I scroll. How's COVID? How's your job? Fine. How's your friend? Fine. How's the fine? Fine. But then but what's the real friendship? What's your what is it that you really care? What are you really trying to do? And I think it's like getting to the bottom of that, and then everything else flows from it. But because I think there's also this idea of when people go like, self-care, go see your friends, go hang out, go see people. And like, that is true, like seeing people that you love and nourishing your soul. Yes. But sometimes like self-care is actually, I don't want to see anybody and I am fine sitting alone in my house and I need to relax and chill. Sometimes seeing a particular person may do you more damage than not. But what I'm saying is life isn't just this like, what I'm trying to say. It's not one thing. It's so many things.
Yeah.
But I think we just,
I wish I knew that too. But as you say, you got to go through it. I don't think I was ready for that message at 21. Like, I'd have been like, shut up, auntie.
Auntie. What do you know?
Yeah.
What do you know? Where are you at? I don't want to be like you. And I thought about this so many times. I'm like, how many times have I thought, if I looked at myself, actually, to be honest, I think if I looked at myself, I think to myself, you're pretty all right. But no, I mean, seriously, there's things where I'm like, man, I used to judge so harshly other people. And that dictated so much of my actions. But nothing coming out of judgment is ever going to be a positive thing, is it? I'm going to do it because I don't want to be like that person.
Yeah.
Well,
fear.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, love. Wait.
Just you wait.
Just wait. You're going to be exactly like that person and worse. Good luck.
No, you know what I mean? You are a beautiful soul.
Oh, bless you. So are you. Man. Yeah.
So looking forward, this new project you're working on, what are your hopes for this project?
So we have the record with the band, like with the boys, that we started writing in 2020 and then we had took a pause on it, and that we're going to be recording next month, which I'm so excited about. So going into a studio for a couple of days and just laying it. We're going to just record it there, I'm really excited. So prior to 2020, when we were playing live shows and stuff, our shows, Joy, honestly, every show that we did, some shows were fine, some shows were fucking awful. And because I hadn't really done live stuff before and learning the synthesizer and all this and all that, there were so many learning curves, and I was always stressed because they'd be like, you got a show next month. And me and the boys like, I'm like, I don't even have an instrument. We're like, okay, like we'll do something. Man, some of the shows were just absolutely disastrous. Anyway, but we were working on it, and I think during lockdown, hilariously, we got really good, and then we never recorded it. And then when I went to Armenia, I was like, man, I just want to be in my own. And I missed playing. Like, it was like, man, I really want to play. Mm-hmm. And it was the first time in my life where I'm like, I really want to play. Like, because up until that point, we'd been preparing for shows. And then during COVID, we were just locked in the flat writing. So coming back, end of last year, we started rehearsing again. And it's been so much fun. And I've loved it so much. And I've come at it from a completely different perspective. So I'm really excited. So we're going to record that. And then I'm working on Capsule 2. So the one that released last year was Capsule I. We're working on Capsule 2. Pretty much like halfway, a bit over halfway there with it. It's one of those things where it could like, you know how the pendulum swings, where it's like you do one thing and it's done. You know, like with a couple of songs, like they don't need that much, but once they're done, it's done. So I want to release Capsule 2, hopefully, you know, across this year. But we've also got the record that we're doing next month with the band. So we'll see like how we release these songs. But I'm just excited, like going at it and playing live is just such a beautiful experience.
Yeah.
Even just going to a show that, you know, you meet so many cool people at shows, and like you're all there for the same thing. And, you know, I think that connection of like, oh man, like we went to go see this band together and I made a friend, and it was like a real life flesh friend. It wasn't like somebody on Clubhouse or on TikTok who I feel like I know. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like, that's a real life flesh friend. That's what it is. It's like, I'm just sick of the phone, man. I'm sick of it. And I don't know how I got onto this. But
I saw a comment a couple of days ago on YouTube that was like, before I used to... I know, I live in the YouTube comments. That's my problem. That's a real issue. Anyway. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. They said, I used to go online to escape the real world, and now I go to the real world to escape the internet. Yes. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty accurate. Yeah, that's how I feel. I'm like, okay, I need to escape this internet. I'm going to go for a walk. Whereas, you know, being 13, the beginning of like Facebook and Instagram, it was like, oh, what's this? And it's completely flipped.
Like I've had it where I've been on TikTok or social media for so long and scrolled. I've gotten like seasick. I've gone physically sick, you know?
Motion sickness.
Yeah, no, I have. That's what it is. And I remember feeling like I was so addicted to the phone. I'm like, I feel so sick. And I knew like I'd been on it for so long, and I felt, I don't know, I've been on it for so long, and I felt really sick. And I knew I just been on it an unhealthy amount. I knew. But then I still decided to Google, because I'm so addicted to the phone, like, what happens when you scroll like too much? And like that's a real thing, like it can actually make you nauseous. And then I'm like scrolling on Google, like looking at all the different like
remedies.
The remedies. And I'm scrolling again. It's like you got your answer, but it was like another reason to scroll. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, this is disgusting. That was a really dark point, because I was really disgusted with myself, but I couldn't. It was just disgusting. Then you wake up in the morning, I don't even remember what I was watching. Isn't that weird? Like in the morning, all I remember are my depressing thoughts about life. Like, why can't I remember? It's like, you know, so you're up, you're not even, what are you doing?
It's like amnesia.
It is amnesia. It's exactly like that.
But they all do the same thing now. There's Instagram Shorts, you know, it's like TikTok. You've got YouTube Shorts, it's like TikTok. I mean,
that's true.
Reels, sorry, not Shorts on Instagram. They all kind of have the same format that kind of keeps you scrolling. So you can't avoid it. If you have any of them, you're going to be consuming the same thing. it's hard. I struggle with it as an artist. Like, how much do you contribute to this kind of like fast food media? Like, check this out, like, and filler content, because this idea of like, oh, you got to post 3 times a day, and it's like, how can you post 3 times a day, be a human being with a life, make good music?
How?
It's impossible.
There's this video on TikTok, ironically, of this girl talking about like exactly to everything that you've mentioned, saying the whole reason why I became an artist is because I'm able to express myself better through my music. I'm not here to get on TikTok to tell you about what I'm eating for breakfast. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Most people that are making art or something like might be socially anxious, don't like to talk in front of a camera, like are really shy, or like, that's what art is there for. Why the fuck am I going to tell you like what my skincare routine is? You know, like, I'm making, you know, like super, I don't know this, and then I'm telling you, fine, I love those videos, I watch them, but like, as an artist, when you're being told like that's what you need to do in order to be able to gain an audience or traction,
music,
and you feel innately uncomfortable.
Well, because it's like almost dishonest in that you're bringing people in for this, and then like the ulterior motive is actually, can you listen to my music? And but that's such a thing right now.
Yes,
it's really funny. It's like, oh, outfit of the day.
Yes.
And I'm like, so people watching you because you look cool, but then you're like, actually, this is the meaningful reason why I need you to.
Yes. You know, my vlog, my this, but that's not why I don't do that. I want to make stuff and I want to put it out and I want you guys to enjoy it. Listen to it, not listen to it. Dance, not dance. Come to a show. That's it. Why do I have to then... Now I've got myself involved in a different kind of career. Now I'm cosmetic haul, makeup haul. You know what I mean? This is what I bought in Sephora today. What the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
My Sephora haul. Check out my track. It's like...
Oh God.
That's the part. It really unnerves me. It makes me feel really sad because it's so difficult. I love, you know, oh, you're really good in front of a camera. Oh, like, you're really fun to, but that's not what I want to do. I don't want to talk to a camera. Hi, everybody.
I mean, you'd be fab, but yeah.
No, I don't. That's not what I want to be doing. And also, if you're like, you need to invest that time and that energy into making stuff, not thinking about how to position this camera here, this camera there, what the outfit, this. It's like, I want to just, I don't know, it's so difficult. And that's why I really hope it goes away. But I don't want it to, because so many people have made their careers and are like smashing it on there. But I just hope that at least another avenue opens up for artists that maybe don't want to be doing that. And there's another thing, like,
Come to shows, guys.
Yeah, come to shows.
I'm gonna come to a show.
Yeah, dude, it's gonna be
so
jokes.
excited.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Joy, come when we start doing shows, which might probably be at the end of this year, depending, but yeah, I'd love to even just come to a rehearsal and just.
I would love to vibe with you all. Yeah, and just can't wait to see it.
Legend.
I could talk to you forever.
Oh my gosh,
all night,
I know.
but time flies when you're having fun.
Time flies when you're having fun.
I am just so grateful we've had this chat.
Yeah.
You are a gorgeous soul, and
baby.
thank you for coming and being on here.
Me.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you next time.
You're filling up the smoke in the car.